There is a passage in the Bible, 6 verses, that describes something so disturbing, so theologically inconvenient, that entire councils of religious leaders have spent centuries trying to explain it away. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. The Nephilim, giants, half-divine beings, the offspring of angels and human women. The Bible mentions them, and then almost immediately tries to move past them. But the ancient world could not forget them, and neither should we. Let's start with what the text actually says, not what we've been told it says. Genesis 6:4 uses the Hebrew word Nephilim, from the root nephal, meaning to fall. These were fallen ones, or the offspring of the fallen. The verse is explicit. The Nephilim were mighty men of renown, warriors, rulers, beings who walked the earth before the flood and left a memory so powerful that every culture on earth carries a version of their story. The Greeks called them Titans. The Norse called them Jotun. The Sumerians wrote about the Anunnaki, gods who descended from the sky and took human wives. The same story. Across every ancient civilization, separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of years. This is not coincidence. This is memory. And there is physical evidence. The megalithic structures left behind, stones weighing hundreds of tons, fitted with impossible precision, raise a question that mainstream archaeology has never satisfactorily answered. Who built these, and how? Here is where the story gets deeper, and where the suppression begins. The Book of Enoch. This text predates most of the New Testament. It was quoted directly in the biblical book of Jude. Peter referenced it. Jesus himself, some scholars argue, drew from its language and imagery, and yet it was removed from the biblical canon. In 363 AD, at the Council of Laodicea, it was declared non-canonical, forbidden. The text was nearly lost to history, surviving only in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which never accepted Rome's authority, and in fragments found among the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. What does the Book of Enoch say? It names them. 200 watchers, angels from the heavenly hierarchy, descended on Mount Hermon, their leader, Semyaza, and they made a pact. They chose to leave their station, to cross the boundary between the divine and the human. And the result of that crossing was the Nephilim. Enoch describes them as 300 cubits tall. Some translations say even more. Giants who consumed everything, who first ate the crops, then the animals, then turned on humanity itself. The text describes the earth crying out in blood, and it was this corruption, this contamination of the human bloodline, that the Book of Enoch gives as the true reason for the flood. Not human wickedness in the abstract, the specific, deliberate, catastrophic corruption of creation by beings who knew exactly what they were doing. Why was this removed? This is the question that matters. Because the theological implications of the Nephilim story are enormous. If angels could rebel, leave heaven, take physical form, and produce hybrid offspring, that raises questions about the nature of angels, the nature of the divine hierarchy, and the nature of humanity itself that the institutional church was not prepared to answer. Jerome, one of the most influential early church fathers, reinterpreted sons of God in Genesis 6 as simply referring to the righteous descendants of Seth. Human men who married ungodly women. No angels, no giants, no supernatural rebellion. This interpretation required ignoring the plain meaning of the Hebrew Bene Ha-Elohim, which in every other place in the Old Testament refers specifically to divine beings, angels. Job 1:6. The sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. The same phrase. Clearly angelic beings. The language is not ambiguous. The reinterpretation was not linguistic. It was theological. It was political. And it worked. For centuries, the Nephilim were buried under layers of commentary, redirection, and institutional silence. Because we are living in a moment when the ancient texts are becoming accessible again. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi Library, the Ethiopian Canon, the Sumerian tablets, material that was locked away in museums, in archives, in languages few people read, is now translated, digitized, and available. And what we find when we read them, without the filter of institutional interpretation, is a picture of the ancient world that is far stranger, far more complex, and far more coherent than we were taught. The Nephilim are not a metaphor. They are not a myth inserted to explain human evil. They are described in document after document, culture after culture as historical beings, beings who shaped civilization, who left monuments we still cannot fully explain, and whose memory was so threatening to certain power structures that extraordinary effort was made to erase them. The book of Enoch ends with a promise. Enoch is told that in the last days, the knowledge that was hidden will be revealed. The things that were sealed will be unsealed. That is why this channel exists. This is the first episode of Apocrypha Unsealed. In the coming weeks, we will go deeper into the book of Enoch, the names of the Watchers, the secrets they taught humanity, and what happened to their offspring after the flood. We will look at the Sumerian account of the Anunnaki and how it parallels Genesis in ways that should not be possible. We will examine the physical evidence, the elongated skulls, the megalithic structures, the artifacts that mainstream institutions have quietly shelved. The Bible is larger than the version we were given. The ancient world knew things we have forgotten, and the texts that were hidden are speaking again. Subscribe.